Okay, I think we're about ready to get going here. I asked Linda to give us the opening prayer. Linda, would you please?
Holy Father in heaven, we thank thee for the opportunity to be here tonight to hear the candidates for governor of the state of Idaho. We pray that thy Holy Spirit will be with us, that we will have good questions for them, and that they will have good answers for us. Things we need to hear, not just what we want to hear, but what we need to hear. Please bless those that are on the way, that they will have safety. Please bless our equipment that will work, and the gremlins will go away. In the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Everybody, please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. I don't know if gremlins are out here tonight. real quick. Actually, you know, what I'm going to do is we're going to get jumping in.
Want to use this one? This is working good.
Yours working? Mine's not. Okay, we good? All right. Like I say, it's always a challenge with technology, and we're working on it. This is actually something that you won't see across the rest of the state. You know, there are 8 individuals running for the Republican nomination for governor, for Idaho governor, and actually these 5 here chose to come and show up and do this. We did invite everybody. Mr. Fowler, he was going to join us also, but he had something come up and he couldn't make it. Mr. Giles, he actually decided he declined the invite, and we just never did hear back from Governor Little. And so what I'd like us to do is give these guys a really big hand for coming. And again, nowhere in the state of Idaho will you see everybody coming. And even though Brad, you know, Governor Little by picture is here, so that's good. You know, like I say, we're going to get started. 2 quick things that I want to say though is, it's America 250, and we're celebrating, and we're trying to raise money, maybe even for better equipment and whatnot. So we're raffling off a flag. Okay, this wooden flag, and it's $20 a piece for a raffle ticket. We're going to draw for it just after the 4th of July, and it's to celebrate the America 250 and the 250th anniversary signed Declaration of Independence. Also, we're just wanted to mention that our annual Constitution Camp for Kids registration is now open for them. We've filled up every year. This is actually our 5th year, and we filled up every year. And so really quick, so if you have kids that want to come, it's for kids 8 through 12, and then teens 13 through 17 get in for free. So if you're interested in this, talk to Cindy back there and whatnot, grab a flyer and get a hold of us. So I'm not this is unique a little bit. Like I say, we have the Republican nominees. Next week we're actually going to there are 4 individuals running for the Democrat nomination for running for governor, and we're going to have at least 3 of those participate. A couple of them may have to do it by Zoom, and one for sure is going to be here, but you know that one of those will be the competitor, if you will, for whomever wins the Republican nomination. And Stand Up for Idaho, we are nonpartisan, and everybody has an opportunity to say something, and we believe that firmly. And so I actually would ask a lot of these folks that are sitting here today to actually come next week and listen to what they have to say, the Democrats have to say, because I think that I truly believe we can learn from each other and learn something from each other. So with that, I'm going to actually turn it over to our moderator, Joanne Thomas. Let's give Joanne a big hand on this, and she's going to... I appreciate her being tolerant with us and helping us on this, and she's going to go through some rules and things and tell us how to run this. So thank you, Joanne.
Thank you, Doug. And thank you to all of you for being here and being engaged in this really important process. So starting out, we're going to give each of these candidates a chance for an introduction, 5 minutes. And right over here, let me direct your attention to Rod Shirtlift. He is going to be keeping time. So when you see that yellow card, that means you have 15 seconds. When you see the red card, it's time to stop, wrap it up. Also, when you come to ask your questions, if you could just get right to the question as quickly as possible, that's going to allow us more time to hear from the candidates and give more people here the opportunity to ask questions. So if you have a couple of questions, please just ask one and then come back around, get in line, and you're free to ask as many as you want, but let's just do one at a time so everybody gets that opportunity. And we will just get started right now. Let's start with you, Sean. Just go ahead, introduce yourself to everyone, and you'll have 5 minutes, and Rod will keep time.
All right. Thank you, Jolynn. Thank you, everybody, for coming out tonight. It's a pleasure to be able to answer your guys' questions, be out here in front of you guys. I'm running my campaign for Idaho as Elevate Idaho. And what that means to me is honoring our past, shaping our future, restoring accountability, strengthening our communities, and protecting our liberty. All too often, we've seen leaders that talk one thing, sign these integrity and affiliations for the platform, promote small government via what they say, promote fiscal accountability, but then turn around and violate every aspect of it. And I'm here to work for Idahoans, not work for lobbyists or big PACs or anything like that. I'm here for you. My door is open for citizens to come and ask questions. I'm not going to avoid you and evade you like some of our current leadership. I'm going to be out here on the debate stages, answering your guys' questions, listening to what's important to you, because I want to get to work and get our government back in its wheelhouse, getting back to work for our local communities, and establishing that separation of powers that seems to be lost.
All right. Thank you so much. And Ron?
Thank you. My name's Ron James. My friends call me Captain Ron, and you're more than welcome to do that. I'd appreciate it if you did. I'm a commissioner at Teton County right now. Folks, the numbers in Idaho simply don't work anymore. We're trying to govern a 2026 Idaho that's the physical system was built in 1990. It's archaic, and it's breaking under the pressure. Our state is on track to add between 300,000 and 350,000 people in the next 10 years. Bonneville County is projected to grow at a rate of 30,000 people. Madison County is projected to grow between 10 and 15,000 people, and our little small county of Teton County, Idaho, is projected to grow between 3,000 and 4,000. I think that number's real low because we're passing a lot of permits. We're expected to absorb all that growth while being funded by a system that limits us to a 3% growth cap, which the inflation numbers came out just yesterday. Inflation's at 4%, so we're already 1% behind. We're growing backwards as a county. They also allow us to add 8% on to construction fees, but they capped that off last year at 80%, so we're not getting all that. So that's more money coming out of our pockets as a county. At the same time, growth is immediate. We all know that. We drive around, we see new buildings coming up every day. But the revenue lags behind that. It takes a while to catch up. At the same time, the state in this budget session, well, I guess it started last budget session, but this budget session, they pulled back $275 million from road and bridges, which equates to Bonneville County is going to lose about $1.2 million to $2 million for road and bridges, which we all know our road and bridges are already failing. That's something we have to take care of. Madison County's looking at losing about $900,000 off their road and bridge budget this budget season. Teton County's going to lose about $787,000. I don't know how we're going to keep our roads open, to be honest with you. At the same time we're growing, the state of Idaho growth rate is 14% above the national average. We have been found out. People want to move here. So taking money away from the budgets of the counties is the wrong answer. You know what I'm saying? Especially when they're sitting the rainy day fund for Boise, they're sitting on $1.3 billion of your tax revenue, just sitting on it. Meanwhile, our hospitals aren't funded, our roads aren't funded, our schools aren't funded. They cut Medicaid by 4%. Our hospitals are failing, and it just doesn't work. It's just a bad business model. The other thing is that we have 38 million visitors that come to Idaho every year, and that number is going to increase. I tried to get a piece of legislation passed in this last session. It got shot down to add a 4% lodging fee onto our short-term rentals. We have over 10,000 short-term rentals in the state of Idaho, and we're not allowed to capture any of that revenue. If we just put a modest 4% lodging fee on those short-term rentals, it would raise $46.4 million in revenue. They could go directly to mitigating the impact of what those visitors bring to our counties and state. The problem is that our formula hadn't changed since 1993. We're living in the past, and we all know how much we're growing. And if they continue to cut our revenue sources, I don't know how we're going to make it. Our budget season's coming up as commissioners. We're starting next month, and it's going to be I don't know how we're going to put it all together and make it balance. So it's reasonable. Is it reasonable to ask the taxpayers, you guys, to fund growth in tourism? Or is it more reasonable to ask that the people that are bringing the impacts to help pay to mitigate the impacts that they're bringing? 15 seconds. Anyway, the system's broke. It needs to be changed. It's 1993. And the crazy thing is, when they passed this law, if you want to go Google it and look what the law said, you couldn't Google it because Google didn't exist. We need to fix it. All right, thank you.
All right, Mark.
Hi, my name is Mark Fitzpatrick, and I'm really thankful you guys are here, and I'm also thankful for the opportunity to be here and talk to you in person, but also for everybody tuning in online live or in the future. Good news from the campaign trail. We totaled up today. We have driven about 7,000 miles, and we've done about 50. Our campaign has done about 50 in-person events, and we have a very, very good response. People are very excited. We have 6 Republican County Committee endorsements, and those are the only 6 that have been given so far. Brad Little has 0. We're the officially endorsed candidate for governor from Conservatives of. We have a couple other groups. We have Sheriff Kendrick endorsed me with some other whisperings of other sheriffs coming soon. So everything's looking really good, and we are fiercely gaining ground on the incumbent Brad Little, which I'll talk about a little bit more later. But I want to introduce or just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a retired police officer, worked for 15 years as a police officer. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have founded and started numerous companies, including real estate companies, international marketing company, escrow company for a decade that I sold. Also today, I have 3 companies. I've employed hundreds of people, hired hundreds of people, and fired many as well. Today I have 3. One's a real estate company, one's an event center, and one is a famous restaurant, Old State Saloon. If you don't know, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail about it, but Old State Saloon is a restaurant where we have stood strong publicly for issues that matter to conservatives, social issues, political issues, etc. And we became famous in 2024 during Pride Month. Instead of celebrating Pride, we celebrated Heterosexual Awesomeness Month, and it went global. Gained a lot of fans, so we have over 200,000 followers online today, and we gained a lot of enemies as well. During those years, stood up fiercely, doubled down against those enemies when they threatened to burn down our building and our business, threatened my life, threatened my family's life, etc., because we are at this point in time in history where the people of this country need to stand up and say, enough is enough. As we've been traveling around the state, most of the people I'm meeting at all these different locations are saying, thank God you're running. We need to get Brad Little out of there. Some of the big problems that we have with him is an increased budget by just about 70%, 60 to 70% over his 7 years in office. That is a disaster. He took just about every dollar of federal money that he could, and with that federal money came programs and agencies. Those agencies are still in existence. When the federal money runs out, who's that going to fall on? It's the taxpayer, and that's not acceptable. We've also had to undergo a socialist agenda that has dramatically affected our society, including things as wicked as the transgender and queer agendas, CRT, DEI, and this was all under his governorship, and he did very little. He has done very little, and to stop any of this from happening. Instead, he remains in secrecy. I had the opportunity to investigate a few things regarding Department of Health and Welfare. In December, I showed that we have a lot of fraud going on, just like Nick Shirley did. I put it out on video, and went and asked him for a meeting, and he ignored. It's what he typically does. He flies under the radar. He doesn't want to talk to the people and operates in secrecy. I like the JFK quote that he gave. The mere word secrecy is an affront to a free and open society. And we need to not have that anymore. My intention after I become governor is to come in and be an extreme populist governor that will get the people involved, and we will have events where the people will come just like this, and I will stand up in front of people as the governor, and I will answer questions to people, and they won't even be, we won't even restrict them, which means there'll be some crazy questions. But we'll do events like that, full transparency, so the people can make great decisions and support our legislator the way that our government was intended.
All right, Lisa Marie.
Testing. My name is Lisa Marie, and I want to commend actually Stand Up for Idaho. Doug Toomer has taken Stand Up for Idaho in less than 2 years, and it will be a household name. I want all of you to know that. And I know that it will be national, without a shadow of a doubt. And thank you for your bravery. Well, our world, our nation, our state is in a dire situation. When we have over 1,000 children, now tipping over 2,000 children missing a day, what do we do about that? 6,300 children in 2025 in the state of Idaho, students, were considered not having a safe roof over their head, living in motels, couch surfing with their parents, and on the streets. This is in our state. I don't know if all of you know, but in 2005, Idaho was picked the entrepreneurial state in the U.S. News and World Report. I want all of you to know that at 13 years old, I talked my mom into moving to Idaho. We came here on vacation. I stepped on the soil, and I just said, I feel safe here. This is where I want to live. So at 13, I was pretty persuasive. My mother and I had one-way tickets from Rhode Island to Idaho. 13 boxes and 2 bicycles in the belly of the plane. I saw my mom struggle every single day, not just financially, but as a single parent. How was she going to protect me from predators? The biggest fear of any parent is their child going missing. In Idaho, we have an average of 30 to 60 children that are missing consistently. And this isn't about missing children. Why are they going missing? And I'd like for you to really think about that. And I do want to say, my mom did a great job with me. I love her with all my heart. Her little girl landed the center of the U.S. News and World Report in 2005. I am a mommy that made a company go global. And it was beautiful people in our state that helped me achieve this. And I am forever indebted to them. But there are also people in this state and in the world and in our country that want to take what is not theirs. And I went from the all-American dream right here in Idaho to the all-American nightmare. And when I needed our highest elected officials who invited me because I was making so much money and I was so influential. If everyone remembers Boise State when they went through their winning streak, you can take your phones and Google up the word Red Rocks, Reddrox. Your mommy right here made a drink bigger than Gatorade. And that company was supposed to stay in Idaho. But there were certain people that befriended not only me, but an Idaho company. And this happens often. There are a lot of people, not only in our state, but in this country and in the world, that put their whole heart and soul into their companies, because it is the small companies that make this country what it is. And I'm getting down to time, but I want everyone to know that I made this poster in 2020. And all the missing pictures that are on there, this is actually from the Idaho State Police. Where are the pictures of the children? They're not there. And I made a phone call to the Idaho State Police, and we know who their boss is. I am doing a statewide, national, and global urgent action on Michael Vaughn. So if anyone wants to talk to me after, please. We are going to find Michael Vaughn, because in 2018, I ran for governor with Brad. It was myself, Raul, Tommy Alquist, and there was one more candidate, Steve Pankey. Steve Pankey is now sitting in Colorado in jail for the murder of Jolene Matthews. How did Steve Pankey become a gubernatorial candidate when he was the top suspect? We need more background checks on every single candidate. Thank you.
And Justin.
Good evening. Thank you for putting this together. This is pretty special. Little bit about myself. I'm from Colorado originally. Grew up on a small cattle ranch. Watched the same thing that's happening here happen there. Bunch of in-migration coming in. Housing developments popped up everywhere. Crowds out one farmer. They add more houses. Crowds out another ranch. You get more houses. We're seeing the same thing here, which drove me to throw my hat in the ring to be a governor. We have to figure out a way to stem the tide, at least until our infrastructure and our manufacturing, so we can have jobs for the people moving in, catch up. My platform is actually a repair manual for the big machine we call government. We have a great owner's manual in our Constitution. We needed a repair manual because it is broke from the ground up. It's broke from the top down. My platform consists of 4 main agendas. One is audits. Lots of government audits at all levels. Moving that straight into transparency so that we can track the money from our pockets to where it needs to be going not to where they send it. If we don't know where our money's going, we can't fix the root problems. As governor, you're to enforce the laws of our state and manage our budget. And if you don't know where your money's going, how do you manage the budget? The next thing in my platform is citizens task forces. That's volunteer people who already look into problems, look into waste, fraud, look into extortion, human trafficking, bring them in, give them an actual open door to the governor where we can listen to all aspects from the people of this great state and know what's actually going on at grassroots level. We've got to work as a group in the state. With that many eyes looking, you're not going to be able to have waste, fraud, double dealing. The last part is accountability. When we find these programs and the people running them, they need to be held accountable. You cannot give them a slap on the wrist and shove them down the road. We need to hold people accountable for the acts that they do. So that's the main part of my platform. I have a lot of thoughts on reform, on changing our tax rates. My platform itself is idahoansfirst.com. I've made this completely transparent. If you go to my site, you will see every idea I have, which is enforceable. It's able to be put in without new bureaucracy, without more spend, to find the issues that we have and take care of them from top to bottom and bottom to top. With all of our effort, we could make Idaho exceptional. Thank you.
All right. Thank you all so much. One of the things I love about this format is that it puts you in the driver's seat. So come on up to the mic and ask your questions, and make sure you're talking right into the mic so that those who are watching on Rumble are going to be able to hear exactly what's going on.
Thanks for coming out and spending your time with us and allowing us to ask you some questions. As Idahoan, and especially as a senior citizen, we never own our homes. There has been a study done that if we increased our sales tax, which is the fairest tax that I could ever think of, 1.5%, which everybody traveling through, we all pay it. It's a user tax. We could do away with property taxes on our property. For all of you, what's your thoughts?
All right, let's go ahead. Since we started with Sean, we'll go right here to you, Ron, if you could answer that question.
Sure, thank you. What was your name, sir? John. John, thank you, John, for that question. I agree with that. I think that user's tax is the most friendly. I failed to mention a number when I was speaking a while ago, making an introduction. The revenue generated off of short-term rentals is $1.16 billion in this state. And just adding a lodging fee onto that, I hate to say the word tax because that sets the guys up in Boise's hair on fire. They don't like the word tax, so I use it as a fee. But I think that is the most fair way to go about taxing, is by consumption. And I would be all for that because we have to raise revenue, because right now all the burden is going on property owners. That's where the majority of the money comes from, the general fund, and it's a lot of times wasted. So I totally agree with that.
Okay. And Mark?
I wish I had more than 2 minutes here. Taxation is theft, and taxation is meant to basically enslave us to a wicked government. I think we will. In fact, I am very confident we will eliminate property tax under my governorship, and I want to explain the way we're going to do it. It's going to be by bringing in additional sources of income and cutting down our expenses. I'm going to skip cutting down expenses and talk about additional sources of income. We have been led to believe that we cannot access our resources and use them the way that we should be able to use them. We are sitting on hundreds of billions, if not trillions of dollars of resources, and we've only scratched the surface. I did a little bit of research. We have companies that are in Idaho just on this one precious metal of silver that are mining, and we're only making about $30 million a year off of it. We're making 1%. Alaska, they get up to 10%. These companies, the two biggest companies in Idaho, are owned by companies that are international, out-of-Idaho companies. It's great that they employ Idahoans, but we're talking BlackRock and Vanguard. And then the other big company is owned by Canadians. It's called America's company of some, like ironically, right? But the thing is, if we take that and we multiply it times 10 and get what Alaska's getting, okay, now that brings us up from 30 million to 300 million. Now, when silver goes up in value, and I'm pretty sure it's going to go up in value to 300 or something, that's another 10. So just in this one example, we're up to $3 billion, okay, just this one precious metal. $3 billion eliminates our property tax right there.
All right, and Lisa Marie?
I'm the same when it comes to taxes. I actually was a real estate agent for a number of years, and just to be able to see the amount of property tax that people were paying, it was just outrageous. I ended up making it to a place to where I hung out with what we would call extreme elites, which we would call that 1, 2, or 3%. I saw the amount of money, and I saw the evasiveness of this percentage of people that actually are not paying their fair share, and each one of you are suffering for it. I'm just going to give it to you blunt. I mean, I'm talking billions and billions of dollars. They're hiring people just to be able to play their numbers because they feel that they're untouchable. We're talking, this has to stop. And the people that are going to put pressure to make sure this happens is all of you. You want to be sitting in this seat with us because you want to see the fraud in the elections that we have to deal with. We really don't want to have to go through this system. It's garbage. And so the fraud, honestly, that's happening in the election level, what I've seen firsthand, started in 2014, saw collusion, I saw fraud, lies, you name it, and there's more I'll talk about later. But those people are getting elected and they're being put in these positions that change your life, and this is where you're supposed to thrive, and they're cheating. And that is not okay. It really needs to be cleaned. The swamp has to be cleaned. And the elite cannot take all these write-offs that they're taking because you're suffering for it.
Thank you. And Justin?
So I'm not going to sit up here and make any huge promises that I know the governor can't keep. First, we have to figure out where our money's going, which is in the governor's wheelhouse. The next thing is, yes, you all have to put pressure on your legislatures to change the laws. The governor doesn't do that. Yes, I would love to see property tax gone. Personally, I think that is one of the biggest ways you can drive farms out, by raising taxes. So, yes, we need to get a handle on that. Can I promise you what'll happen? No, but I can promise you if you elect the right legislatures in and keep booting the ones that we don't like out, you will make a change. Other than that, I have some thoughts on it, which are on my site. But I can't make you a promise that it'll ever be fixed. All we can do is fight together by making Idaho transparent and finding where our money goes to be able to move forward in any tax type law.
Right, thank you. And Sean?
The principle behind Elevate Idaho is that if you truly own your property, you shouldn't have to rent it from the government year over year. Property taxes have become one of the most frustrating and unstable parts of Idaho's tax structure, especially as we see assessments rise faster than wages and families finding themselves paying more and more year over year and potentially risking losing their homes. My position is that I believe Idaho should move forward in eliminating property taxes over time, but it's got to be done responsibly. I've laid out a plan to do that. Number one, we stop endless taxation on ownership. People should not lose their homes simply because the value of their surrounding properties have increased and because government spending is expanding faster than our economy. Number two, we cap property tax growth. Until property taxes can be structurally replaced, their growth needs to be limited. Next, we protect homeowners and seniors. Long-term homeowners shouldn't risk having their houses taken from them just because they're the ones that are hit the hardest by rising property taxes. We need to rein in government spending. If spending growth is not controlled, no tax reform in Idaho is ever going to last. And we need to strengthen local control. Local communities should have more direct control over the tax decisions that affect them and impact their citizens. Moving forward with that, we need spending discipline first. If we can't have that spending discipline, as I already stated, we won't have any consistent tax reform. Gradual reduction of property tax reliance should come next. We can't just eliminate it overnight, as much as that would be nice for everybody. We've got to remove our reliance. Strengthen homestead protections. While long-term reforms are implemented, we can immediately strengthen protections for homeowners, particularly seniors and long-term residents. Require voter approval for any major property tax increases, getting you, the citizens, more involved, and restoring local accountability. Elevating Idaho means restoring that principle while maintaining the fiscal discipline necessary to keep our state strong.
All right. Thank you. And next question.
My question is for all of you again. Most of you seem to have a lot of entrepreneurial experience, not as much government. Being a governor is a job that's got a lot of responsibilities on a very complicated system. Can you talk to your experience and how you're going to leverage that experience to that job as governor?
And we'll start with you, Mark, on this one.
Yes, no governor experience here, outsider for sure. This is exactly what Idaho needs, is somebody with a fresh look to come in and bring what is right and true. The number one thing that Idahoans need to be looking for right now is somebody who will come and stand for truth. We have had deception and lies and corruption woven deeply into the fabric of our society. Everywhere you look, you see it. I'm hearing it from people as I travel around the state. People are sick and tired of it all, and they tell me, I just want truth. I just want truth. That's the number one thing that you have to look for. As far as experience specifically on this, I do have experience with government work, being a 15-year police officer. Understand that's quite a bit different than being a governor, but there's a lot to be gained from that and working in that kind of atmosphere. We'll be working obviously closely with the Idaho State Police, which of course would be a benefit in that situation. This is a type of thing where people would say the same thing about our current president of the United States, not having experience coming into his job, but he came in and really kind of laid waste to what was going on, showing people what was up, draining the swamp, exposing people for their corruption, exposing the fake news, the media, etc. And I would argue that even if we are potentially, not happy with some things about President Trump, there's certainly a lot to be very thankful for, especially what he has shown us with the media and how corrupt they are, hiding information and helping with the secrecy that's going on in our country. Exposure is what we need. That's what's going to help us start to solve all problems. And a good governor who's not afraid and has shown that he's not afraid to stand up in the face of threats, death threats, etc. And we'll do that, and we'll call people on the mat. That's what we need.
Right. Thank you. And Lisa Marie.
Thank you. And I love your question, by the way, sir. Great question. So here's the problem. When you are considered a high-profile CEO, you run companies, and you do a great job at it, there is accountability. You have this much money, and you spend this much money. This works, this doesn't work. If you're running a company and you need to talk to your clients, and you've got to talk to your subcontractors and your bankers, you have to call them. When you're in a position as being what we are, CEOs, all these political candidates and elected officials come to us wanting money. I have never seen such an unorganized group of people, because I don't even know what a politician is. It is not run as a business. What is needed in these positions are entrepreneurs like us that know how to pay our bills, know how to manage people, and know how to hold people accountable. That's what's necessary.
Thank you. And Justin.
So, yeah, I've had very little gubernatorial experience. I have never run for office before. My experience that I have had, I've been a fire captain on the fire department. I've moved my way through our maintenance department up to a trainer, which is laying out projects, making sure people understand how to get from point A to point B on that project. So leading people has never been a problem. I've coached for 20 some years around Kimberly. Again, it's just getting the right people to work together to be able to move forward in whatever the endeavor you're in. So as governor experience, I could have started at a local level. I could have moved up to maybe a state level, and then maybe a lieutenant governor, learning how to lie and cheat and tell you that, you know, everything's great. But I would rather look at it from an outsider standpoint and as a machine and get to root causes of the problem. You're not going to do that if you're embedded in the normal quid pro quo, just normal everyday government. I think most of us up here kind of have that belief that if we're up here, we actually have an idea that would fix the government that isn't business as usual. I sat down with my wife and wrote a whole repair manual. Like I said, you can find it at idahoansfirst.com. It is a repair manual. That's my time, my research, figuring out what really could be done. And I've learned extreme amounts in the short 6 months that I've been doing it. So, again, please look at my site, and that might answer some questions. Thank you.
Right. Sean.
You know, I think that Lisa's answer is pretty spot on there. As entrepreneurs and business owners, we deal with real-life challenges every day that impact our businesses, our employees, ourselves, our families, our communities. And that allows us a more direct connection to you as our constituents. That's something that we have a problem with in our current leadership. There's a big disconnect. They're not listening to Idahoans. They're listening to big lobbyist groups, foreign PACs, international influencers. We've got 14 representatives in our state legislature right now that are funded by one of the board of directors of ByteDance, the Chinese Communist Party company behind TikTok. We've got another governor that in 3 months of this, we've got our governor, Governor Little, that in 3 months of his campaign has accepted no Idaho donations. That to me says he's prepared to sell every one of us in this room out to foreign entities. Let's get Idaho back to us. Let's get to work as those entrepreneurs that see what our communities need, that are involved in our communities, and put some fresh minds on the table.
Thank you. And Ron.
As I've mentioned before, I am a Teton County Commissioner right now, so I'm on the front lines of government, the county government. And let me tell you something, folks. It's been a baptism under fire. It's been a very learning experience, and I can tell you this from experience. Government is broke and it's not meant to work. It is a very dysfunctional. And I'm also an entrepreneur. I own a couple of businesses, and I'm a real estate agent also. My experience is that I sponsored a bill this legislative session for the short-term rentals with Senator Harris and Josh and the other Mike try to help us with that. We also we did sponsor a bill, myself and Senator Harris, that was going to allow ranchers and farmers to break off a portion of their land 1 acre to 5 acres for the children without going through the subdivision process. And the subdivision process, y'all, if you've ever tried to do it, it takes about 2 years to do it. It costs you $1 million. We proposed legislation that they would, if it was in the family tree, you could just break it off and you just pass it on to your family to keep the farm alive. That got shot down by Ada County, of course. I've been in the legislative session, this past legislative session. I was there 7 times. I've worked with the AAC, which is the Idaho Association of Counties, trying to get bills passed that are favorable to the Idahoans, and all the bills got passed by the lifelong politicians. So I do have experience in that. When I got elected to be a commissioner in Teton County, the previous commission had been blue for 12 years, Penny. We turned it red by making very practical decisions. So, yes, I do have experience, and I can bring that to the governorship.
All right. Thank you so much. Right. Next question.
Hey, so during election, one of the favorite catchphrases for everybody is Idaho values. And my question for each one of you is, what is your definition of Idaho values, and how are you uniquely qualified to represent those values?
All right. Lisa Marie, we'll begin with you on this question.
I love that question. Thank you for that. Idaho is my home, and I will protect every square inch of it. What I love about our state is that we do all get along. We are a 2 million plus state that acts like a 10 million plus state. And we are willing, people that are coming in from out of state, we open our arms to them in love, unless they want to do some creepy things. Okay? I spent a lot of time in planning and zoning as a real estate agent, and I can't believe what I saw. Thanks, Commissioner, by the way, for being an honest one. How did a project get through mysteriously? I want you to know that there are bills just sitting in drawers that a number of our Congress just forget about. You know, the silence is done. You have the right not only to ask the questions, but you have the right to be in these seats too, and I really want to encourage you on that. Why was I the only one running against Mike Simpson in 2016? Do you know that I only spent $300 on my declaration of candidacy? How did I acquire 27.9% of the votes? Okay. I also want all of you to know that in 2016, I was actually asked by 2 Ada County former sheriffs to run for sheriff, because they told me that if I actually had warrants out for my arrest, I'd still be able to run for sheriff. So when I ran for sheriff, I had 6 warrants out for my arrest, paid $40, no background checks, no polygraph test, and my son is actually an Ada County deputy sheriff, and I had to do nothing. Thank you.
You and Justin.
So Idaho values to me is close communities where everybody works together. Idaho values to me are coaching, kids sports, supporting your local neighborhoods, keeping our neighborhoods clean, keeping our parks clean, keeping our open spaces open, keeping our farmland as farmland. I think Idaho values has always been in the agricultural world, and I think we really need to stay there. You don't grow crops on blacktop. So keeping our lands open, bringing our public lands back under the control of Idaho, I think are all strong values that most Idahoans want. Transparency in government, I think, is an Idaho value that we all want. I think knowing where our money's going is a value we all want. Other than that, I mean, just keeping everybody, your families close, having support between community members, just a lot of little things that make Idaho so great.
All right, thank you. And Sean.
Idaho values to me really stands out as our communities, being there for each other when the time calls. We've seen it here locally with the Chamber of Commerce and Toffus Park and how the community came together during the Great Fire of Idaho Falls. And we rebuilt, we established all of that, and our community came together without our government to make that happen. That's what I see as Idaho values, us working together, even when we don't agree. We can come to the table, we can have dinner, we can ask each other the hard questions, we can have the conversations that protect our individual liberties, that protect our agricultural farmlands, that protect our naturistic views, and just protect Idaho as a whole. We need to get federal government off our back, get back to work for the communities. And as most famously said by Pinocchio, there's strings on others as you see, but I'm a grassroots campaign. I'm funded by my own money, my own donations. There are no strings on me.
Thank you. And Ron?
That is a good question, real good question. Well, one of the things I like about our little county, even though we're sometimes politically polar opposites, you can put a message on Facebook that I'm going over to Idaho Falls. I need something picked up. And within 5 minutes, you'll get 10 responses. I'm going over there. I'll get it. What do you need? That kind of thing. When families go through a tragedy, the community just embraces them. During COVID, when all that craziness was going on, I found out, a buddy of mine called me and says, hey, the Wind Indian Reservation is going through a lot of stuff right now. They said the kids are getting a carton of milk and a granola bar, and that's what that was their entire meal for the day. The elders were having to drive 100 miles to get clean water. So I just put a blast out on Facebook and said, hey, we have a problem here. And I said, I'm raising money. You just drop the money, your donation by the booth, my barbecue booth. And we raised enough money through our little community. And we sent 10,000 cases of food and medicine and water over to the Wind Indian Reservation. And we saved the language, because if the elders had died during COVID, which they was wiping the Indian population out, the language would have died. But it was 13,000 people that raised enough food to basically save that nation. So that's to me Idaho values. It's just when you're in need and you reach out to your neighbor, it doesn't matter what party you're in, politically wise, we can agree or disagree, but they're going to step up and they're going to come and help you.
Thank you. And Mark?
Idaho values are traditional, and our traditional values are majorly under attack. In the past several years, we've even got to the point where half-naked men are in libraries. They're dressed as women. They're reading books to children, and we are supposed to be celebrating this as if it's something to be honored. It's disgusting. We have a mayor in Boise, our biggest city, that spends most of her time seemingly celebrating perverse values, and the values include pushing transgenderism on children and convincing them that boys may not be boys and girls may not be girls. It is DEFCON 1 when it comes to this type of thinking. We are heading the direction of these polluted, sinful, wicked cities like Portland and Seattle and San Francisco, and if we don't do something about this really soon, it's going to be too late. This is something that I have worked every day on for the past several years. I have stood publicly against this. I have gone to Pride events. I have talked to hundreds of people. I've put out videos. I talk about these things every day. People need to step up. They need to step in the gap and protect our children. It's not happened. We've been apathetic. And we need to repent from our apathy, and we need to stand as a light on biblical values. And we need to stand, the men need to step up and stand as men and say, no, that's not going to happen here in Idaho. We won't let it happen. As your governor, I've demonstrated that I do this. I'm not afraid to do it. We also have a lot of other concerns too, whether it's housing, overpopulation, giving away too many freebies, way too many homeless. The homelessness is growing. I filmed some videos this week. I'll be putting those out. It's out of control. We need somebody who's not afraid to step up, call people out by name, and put a stop to this. That's me.
All right. Thank you very much. And next question.
You all seem to be pretty much in favor of cutting state budget. So what would be your first priority and why to start with cutting an agency or reducing significantly the agency's funding?
So first you have to find out where the money's going. So we start with audits. Got to audit everything. Every division of government, be it highway department, education, and we've got to do that down to the bone. Second is making it transparent. Making it transparent keeps everybody's eyes on it. Bringing in a citizens task force, that's all of us. We all can volunteer for that. Opening that door, getting the people involved is how you're going to find all the root problems. If we can control our money and we know where it's going, more than likely we won't have to cut near as deep as they keep preaching that we have to. So just a few easy programs, get our money back in line, and more than likely cuts won't be necessary. We can hold where we're at, keep our programs right, by restructuring education system, holding Medicare and like SNAP benefits and programs like that more accountable. The money will be going where it needs to be, and cutting will be less likely needed than not.
All right. Thank you very much. And Sean.
Well, first off, government doesn't create wealth. It manages the resources that people who do make wealth provide. When government grows faster than our economy supporting it, the bill eventually lands on taxpayers, Idaho families, business owners. We understand this because we live within those real budgets every day. If revenue drops, we adjust. So my position is that we can be one of the most financially stable states in the country, not because we can be lucky with revenue, but because we manage our finances responsibly. That comes with more surgical precision cuts, something that we didn't see in this latest budget move. We saw across-the-board cuts to institutions and infrastructure that relies heavily on it, and we're already seeing the backtrack of that. So we need to be more precise in that movement. We need to plan ahead instead of reacting. That means investing in Idaho rather than responding when an issue comes to it. We need to be prepared for those by putting in spending guardrails. Government spending shouldn't grow faster than the taxpayers that are funding it. We need to have transparent spending. We need to know where our money is going as taxpayers. That's a right that you should have. Leadership sets that tone. If Idaho families are tightening their rails due to budget crises or increased inflation, government should do the same. The 3% raise that was passed during our budget crisis, I would have never approved that myself as governor. If you as Idahoans have to cut your spending, I shouldn't be getting a raise. If our government can't be accountable to you and have a balanced budget that works for Idahoans, I should not be eligible for a raise myself because I'm not doing my job as a steward of your finances.
Thank you. And Ron?
That's an interesting question. I think the first thing you have to do is find out where the fluff is and get rid of the fluff. All these government programs and these government subsidies need to be done away with. People need to be able to, if you can't afford it, don't buy it. I think the second part of that is they need to stop telling counties how they spend their revenue. They have the counties handcuffed. They put your money as a county in buckets, and they tell you how you can spend it, when you can spend it, and where you can spend it. Case in point, We're coming up to our budget process. We have a mosquito abatement district, which is just crazy. They're going to have, since it's a taxing district, they're going to have an excess of $450,000 excess. As a commissioner, I'm not going to be able to touch that. Try to balance my budget because they said I can't touch that. They have enterprise funds, what they call enterprise funds, that the state mandates that you have to have as transfer stations. They're going to have a $2 million surplus during our budget. Well, the state of Idaho says you can't touch that, even though my roads are falling apart. They handcuff us as commissioners. And what they need to do is, if you let the commissioner, they need to let us spend our money where our money's needed in the county, and not tell us from their little golden throne up there, sitting up there on their little city on the hill, dictating and fighting over our money. They need to let us, as our citizens, decide where that money needs to go to.
Thank you. And Mark.
Well, I can tell you I would start with the Department of Health and Welfare. It has a $6.5 billion budget out of our total roughly $15 billion budget. The reason why I would start there is because I started investigating it already myself. I knocked on doors of what was supposed to be child daycares, and there weren't. And we researched, we knew exactly how much money these places had received the last several years. In many instances, they didn't even exist. In some instances, there were supposed to be 12 children there, and there was one, and I think it was the child of the person who lived there. Hundreds of thousands of dollars just in the 4 days that I went out, hundreds of thousands just in the last couple years, millions. There was one place I went to when we were starting to think about doing a new category and looking into medical. So in-home medical services, there was one address, and they had $3 million that had been given to them, and it was basically an broken down apartment, and it was shut down. This is the type of stuff that's happening in Boise. People have no clue. And they think, wow, it's so bad, Minneapolis, and what he's uncovering in California, it's so bad. These things are going on in our state. It's mind-blowing that it's happening. But we need people who are not afraid to go in and start knocking on doors and investigate these things. That's why I did it. And that's what I will continue to do. We'll get into immigration. I mean, we have 80,000-ish illegals here, and the amount of money that we spend on that through all these programs and giveaways, cut it all off. Cut the jobs off by making it illegal to hire illegals, and let's prosecute the first few people who do. When there's no jobs left, illegals will leave because there won't be any money to make and there won't be any freebies. We cut them off. When you cut that off, we don't have to worry about sheriffs having a budget and working with ICE and the slow enforcement of deportations. It will happen very quickly. They'll self-deport, won't cost us anything.
Thank you. And Anne Marie.
Thank you.
Lisa Marie.
Yeah, it happens. Just drop the Presley. All right, I want to give you guys a little bit of history. I opened my first business in 1992. I owned a bridal shop in between, right next to the mall. It was called Elite Bridal and Fashion. And interesting enough, I had a 3-year plan. My first year was to do 120,000, then 160, and then 180. I quickly did 500,000 and 1,400 square feet. What was interesting when I opened my bridal shop, I was doing all the fancy dresses for all of our fancy people that are running the state. Straight up. There are organizations that are in this state that they consider themselves the elite. I have seen the same people in power that I call them the Idaho shadow people, and they're in Washington, D.C. when I'm there, and they're the ones that are controlling everything. You need to know this. They want you scrambling around. I've seen the exchange of money in lump sums that is mind-boggling. You're being lied to by these people, and they're in your backyard. And don't be afraid of them. I'm not going to sit here and start naming them off. I probably won't make it to my car without getting shot. Right? You need to question who are these people that are putting these people in power. Because I'm going to tell you right now, I have an awful lot of proof that a number of these people have landed their positions and it was fixed. Straight up. You got probably about 10 people that run this state, and I know them. Thank you.
Thank you. And next question.
Thanks for taking time with us tonight. During COVID, Governor Little shut us down and put us in a state of emergency. Today, still in 2026, all of our bills include the language, therefore, a state of emergency existing, blah, blah, blah. Are we still in a state of emergency? Should we still be in a state of emergency? And do we not need to get rid of that? Part one. Part two, we had several of our legislators from this area vote against holding business owners accountable for hiring illegal aliens. And the reason they gave for voting against that was that that is the responsibility of the federal government. Are we not a sovereign state, and are we not responsible for our own borders?
All right. Thank you. And Sean, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so we shouldn't be in a state of emergency anymore, but I've continued to see that used on a broad spectrum basis to also pass bills with little oversight, where we're seeing legislation go through as emergency order when there is no emergency surrounding it. That's a violation of us as constituents having oversight and accountability with our officials. If they're going to just pass stuff through willingly, without time for public comment, without time for us as the constituents to have a discussion on it, it's time to change that system of power. In regards to the other question, yes, we are a sovereign state. We should be protecting our own borders. Is that more of a federal standard? Yeah, federal government should protect the borders first. We should be a secondary line of defense to that. It is their responsibility. That's what I'm talking about when I say getting government back in their wheelhouse. We need to make federal government more accountable for protecting states' sovereign spaces, where they are the ones that are handling that immigration issue first, and then we handle the immigration issue within our own states. Something I saw and heard that kind of bothered me in Owyhee County this last week was the protection of these conservatives for their immigrant workers. They talk about wanting to hire Idahoans, wanting to have immigration dealt with, but then they turn around and want the visas that allow them to hire the same low-cost employees. We need to fix that. We need to put Idahoans to work first.
Thank you. And Ron?
Well, we could talk about this for a while, especially COVID. I think that was the greatest social experiment that the government has ever pulled off, and it was all a bunch of, I'll edit that word. No, I would, yes. The state of emergency is over with. There never was an emergency, in my opinion. So, yes, that language would be striked immediately. And, yes, it is up to us as Idahoans to protect our sovereign state. This goes back to funding, what they're doing with our $1.3 billion that they sit up there and they hold, that's your tax dollars. In our county, we're 450 square miles, and in any given time, we had one deputy patrolling the entire county. Had it not been for a private citizen that stepped in and gave our sheriff's department a $1.5 million donation, our sheriff's department would still have one deputy patrolling 450 square miles. So they need to give us our money. They're holding it. It's ours. Give it back to the counties and let your county representative that you elected spend it to fix our counties.
Right. And Mark?
All right, so for COVID, most people don't know this. We were one of the very first red states to shut down. That was by order of the governor. He declared an emergency, and then he continued to extend that emergency for over 900 days. that gave himself emergency powers, and that is ridiculous. There is absolutely no reason why that should have happened. Under my governorship, I will rally the people and the legislature to create limitations on the governor's office to basically be able to continue emergency orders like that. There's no reason why we can't bring the people in those legislature in to start being the ones who would dictate whether we continue in emergency status or not, and what that would mean and what those details mean. Otherwise, there's too much power under the authority of an emergency that's being presented to everybody with a lot of money behind it, and Hollywood stars and free French fries and all those other things. Regarding being a sovereign state, here's the way I look at it, is that it's nice if the feds want to help and they can and they're going to do something, but we definitely can't be relying on them. We need to build a strong Idaho that will defend itself. That's what we'll do under my governorship. Bill 700 and 704 were two key bills that, had they passed in this session, we would be on our way to being rid of the burden of the massive amount of illegals that are here. And those did not get passed. They got put in someone's drawer. The reason why is because there weren't enough people involved. Under my governorship, I'm going to rally a base of people that is so big and so powerful and would put pressure on the legislature that they wouldn't dare put a bill so important inside a drawer and let it die and not go to Senate for a vote.
Thank you. And Lisa Marie.
Look, the one thing that I really want all of you to understand is that you have a voice, okay? Our government and those above our government want you to be in fear all the time. They want you to feel that there's nothing that you can do. Not one person can do one thing alone. You've got to work together. I'm at the Idaho State Capitol and those halls are empty. I mean, literally, you can go down to Brad Little's office, all of you together here, and sit in front of there and just go, we're not leaving. You got to work together on what your problems are. They want you to be in a crisis all the time. And that is not okay. That is not thriving. The more all of you band together in your communities, you are power. You are far bigger than each person sitting in that state capitol. If you got a problem with Raul, all of you go together and stand right in front of there and go, we're not leaving. Get your phones. Tape it. You have far more power than you think you have. And the federal government, I mean, please. What they try to mandate on us, we can stand up as a state and say, that is not happening. You want to go ahead and pull that federal money? Have a good day with that. Because we have to work together and hold hands and not be separate and not bickering with each other. We've got to be one voice, and you have the capabilities of doing that.
Thank you. And Justin.
So the first part of that was, could you repeat what was the first part of the thing? It's been so long, it took...
Honesty.
Oh,
Yeah.
State of emergency. Okay, so the COVID was the first part. So, COVID, I hated the way he handled it. It, to me, was never really an emergency. The state shouldn't have been closed down. At the time, I was working as a truck mechanic, and there were trucks coming in from every other state. They break down, they come right in, we jump in a truck, we fix it. So how they handled it was completely ridiculous. If they really cared, they'd, went through, cleaned the trucks as they come in to get repaired and get them back out of the state, if they really cared, in my opinion. Mishandled. Don't believe that any of that kind of writing should be used. Our lieutenant governor at the time changed a lot of the policy, and as soon as he got back from vacation or wherever he was, he put it right back into effect. So, yeah, hated the way he handled it. Personally, I'd have handled it different. I don't think the government needs to dictate to a person that they shouldn't be able to travel or right to free travel. So I didn't like that at all. Part two of that on immigration. We have an immigration problem. It's been going on for years. We need to get in front of it. We need to set up programs to put people into those jobs quickly. We can do that through Department of Corrections work centers. Yeah. Any other questions, just ask me later.
All right. Thank you. And next question.
I'll follow up on that COVID just a little bit. I'd like to know where all of you were in your life when the COVID hit. Like your job. I'd like to know if you wore a mask. I'd like to know if you got vaccinated. And if you were in agreement with wearing masks, getting vaccinated, or, you know, closing certain businesses, and how your involvement was with that.
And we'll begin with you, Ron.
What was the question again? Oh, just kidding. No, well, you know my stance on COVID. Like I said, it's the greatest social experiment that's ever been perpetrated on the human beings, in my opinion. It was way blown out of proportion. I did take one vaccination, that was it. I did not wear a mask. I almost got in a fight at Broham's over it. Did have to wear a mask when I went to Mexico because they wouldn't let me get into Mexico, and I wanted to go to Mexico really bad. But we kept our business open the entire time. Like I said, during COVID, when you couldn't get goods and services because they, for some reason, you couldn't go buy toilet paper or whatever. I don't know, still don't understand what that was all about. But no, we kept our business open. Matter of fact, when our community was not able to get paper towels and stuff like that, U.S. Food called us, and we're our suppliers for our business. And so we have a whole warehouse down here that's always going to go bad. Could you help us sell it? And so we opened up the business to the community where they could order cases of food at a time, sanitizer, paper towels. So we serviced the community during that time, made no money off of it, but we supplied the community during that trying time. And no, I still don't believe it.
All right, Mark.
During that time, my primary job was a real estate broker, and was doing that work. I was researching and researching and researching. It seemed to me to be a scam from the get-go. I never obeyed their mask orders, wore a mask. I definitely never took any vaccines. In fact, you know, I listened to the doctors that were Christian doctors who put their jobs on the line and lost their jobs for what they were saying about COVID, rather than the doctors who were given big fat checks for what they were saying. I found those Christian doctors to be much more believable, and they were putting their lives at risk for what they were saying. So based off of that and more studying that I did, and recognizing the tricks that the government does to put us under their thumb, false flags, etc., from the past, it was very obvious to me that it was a scam. So I was out there pretty aggressively telling people to not comply with the scam, to the point that the pastor of my church even asked me, hey, you might want to calm down just a little bit. But I was telling people, when the vaccines come, this is way before they came, when the vaccines come and they're telling you to take vaccines, don't do it. That's what I was telling people. This was a time when people were afraid to do that. Another thing that I did, Southwest District Health, full of a bunch of liberals, they decide to get together and they're going to vote and issue a mandate and pretend like this is some sort of law that's enforceable, right? It goes against our constitutional rights. Well, a large group of people went down. I helped organize it and rallied people. We went down outside South District Health during that meeting, and we sang songs and prayed and had speeches and demanded that they did not issue a decree for everybody to have to wear a mask or whatever that they were deliberating on. and we were victorious because it got delayed, and I don't think it went through as they fully hoped and intended it would. So while Brad Little was telling people to obey, I was telling people to exercise their constitutional rights.
Lisa Marie.
Okay, hold on. You're going to get some education here. So there is a plant called Rooibos, and that's what this company is. So I actually ended up finding this plant in 1999. By 2004, I was able to bring it from South Africa, and it actually being put in water actually hydrates the water on the cellular level. So if anyone wants to get their phone later, they can write in the word REDDROX. I found myself in the middle of the biggest game in the food and beverage industry and nutraceutical world. Now, I'm going to tell you this. Purposely, we knew many years before COVID hit. All of you are actually dehydrated on the cellular level, and that is by design. They made sure that all of you had no water with plant nutrients in it. You're drinking plastic water in bottles. This is the biggest problem for the human body. I was mentored by Dr. Sievert Koop, our former Surgeon General. All of this, if you investigate it, you'll see it. But the biggest problem that we had with COVID, they would state, is that you needed to stay hydrated on the cellular level. I was actually working on negotiations of bringing in what we made was a water-soluble concentrate just into the state of Idaho. I'm talking 40-foot containers. And I had 40-foot containers of this plant Rooibos, which is a water-soluble concentrate. It has magnesium, manganese, copper, iron, zinc, potassium, calcium, plant sodium, plant fluoride. It's a legume. You put it in your water, and now you're hydrated on the cellular level without toxins. And those 40-foot containers that I paid for to come into this state were not allowed to come in. And these are the people that are making decisions for you right now. All right?
Thank you. And Justin.
So as I stated earlier, I was working at Jerome Peterbilt at the time, working on trucks that come through that were broke down. At the same time, we were running a small coffee truck, me and the wife, and we had a lot of small businesses that we went to, supplied their workers with coffee, snacks, that kind of thing. When they closed everything down, a lot of those small businesses had to close. So that took a lot of business away from our coffee truck, ending up with just one being the Ford dealership there in Twin. The other one all the way in Jerome, which was Jerome Peterbilt. So yeah, we pretty much lost our coffee truck due to COVID shutting down and just no businesses being open for us to go sell coffee at. So yeah, it's totally mismanaged. Like I said, I worked on trucks from back east to California that come through. I never wore a mask, wore rubber gloves, but it's a greasy job. So, and I have not been vaxxed at all. Didn't really believe in their science. I didn't like the fact that it was pushed through so quick. Not enough clinical tests. I am kind of a skeptic on stuff like that. So, yeah, I'm just, I guess, what the people call pure blood nowadays. I don't know. So, anyways.
Thank you. And Sean?
So I'm going to share a couple stories. I was working in food service when COVID first started really ramping up and we started seeing the shutdowns. And something that concerned me heavily was watching people that were wearing masks in food service dropping those masks wherever they felt like, whether it was an assembly line, a food service production zone, a prep zone, everywhere but the trash. I mean, they were winding up on our streets. They were winding up on Target's little pylons. They were being left everywhere but the garbage. One of the first things, if we were going to do this mask policy, we should have had biohazard buckets for these to be disposed of, especially in food service. The second thing that stood out to me during COVID is when I became, or felt like I became, public enemy number one. As an anti-masker, I walked into Target one day and there was almost everybody didn't wear a mask. The very next day, I was the only person in the store that was not wearing a mask. I was actually scared for my life for the first time in Idaho. Where I really started pushing back hard was when we started seeing the vaccine mandates. This fast-tracked vaccine, and I know what happened with polio. I know what happened with smallpox. These are vaccines that took decades of research, decades of trial and error, and some of those errors were very erroneous and harmful. But we started seeing the vaccine kickbacks, and instantly my mind went to, where else have we seen that in America? Purdue Pharmaceutical with opiates. $36 billion in profits, and when they finally were held accountable, they got a slap on the wrist for a $7 billion fine. Is that what we're going to see with vaccines? Who knows? But this is just started. They're still trying to push that vaccine down our throat. They've got multiple variants now. They want you to get multiple boosters per year. Think about Purdue Pharmaceuticals when you think about kickbacks to our medical industry.
Thank you. Next question.
How do you plan to beat Governor Little? It seems like he doesn't have to do much campaigning and he keeps winning. So that's my first question. My second question is a quick one. Do you look to God for guidance?
Thank you. And we'll begin with you on this one, Mark.
I'm going to start with the second one. In November is when I asked around and I found out there was nobody running against Brad Little, and certainly nobody running that had a chance to win that I could see. And I called people, nobody's running, etc. So that's when I prayed. And when I prayed about it, I said, God, would you please show me? If I'm supposed to run, if this is something I should do, would you show me? And if not, would you, close that door and make it very obvious? Well, the next several weeks, he made it very obvious that I was supposed to run. A lot of major things happened. I made national news. I gained a whole bunch of followers. This was in December, of people who were supporting what I was doing with my investigations and everything else, and offering free beers for a month to anybody who helped ICE deport somebody out of the United States. And that was right after the prayer. I said, make it obvious, right? And now all of a sudden I'm on Fox News again and doing all these interviews. Only God can put that type of thing together, because the post that I made is a very typical post that we make at Old State Saloon. So it led to that sequence of events, and it led to being put under audit by the Idaho Tax Commission, and it led to me offering a $25,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of Mayor McLean publicly, and that made a lot of news as well. So, back to God. Yes, really, every day I wake up and I pray, and I say, Lord, what would you have me do today? That's me. My values are biblical. And it's on what God would expect, and I want to end my life and fight the good fight, and at the end of my life have God say to me, well done, my good and faithful servant.
Right. Thank you. And Lisa Marie?
I love that question. In God we trust. So when I got on the ballot in 2014, I printed 100,000 of these. And I made sure that everyone understood that no children, no human race. Let's talk about Brad Little. So does everyone remember 2018, the campaign with Raul Labrador, Brad Little, Tommy Alquist? Does anyone know that I was running then? Just raise your hand if you knew that I was running for governor. Crazy, isn't it? I traveled this whole entire state. My resume is bigger than theirs. I actually made a drink bigger than Gatorade. My company was offered $3.3 billion. That's an Idaho company. And I was sabotaged, truly, what you see in the movies. I never talked about that in 2014. The reason why I got on the ballot is my best friends that actually are extremely wealthy in this state and are the good ones called me and said, Lisa, you need to come home. You were the one in the center of the U.S. News and World Report in 2005. This actually was supposed to be Justin Plante. But it was me. And the reason why it was me is because I tell the truth. Now, Brad right now is backed into a very serious corner. And I'm not going to tell you the reason why. But these are all my brothers here. Right? And don't you think that it's amazing that after the primary, because of course, Brad is going to win again? I wonder why. Maybe because of all those certain people that are in that place are like, Brad's going to be governor because he's just going to do everything that we want him to do. That's what our politics are. That's why there's 8 out of 10 people that are not voting. 8 out of 10. You're the 2 out of 10 that vote. That's crazy. This whole entire system is done. But you just keep watching all of us because Brad's going to have some tough times after the primary.
So I have my own beliefs in a higher power. I don't really talk about it a whole lot. I believe that being a strong person in your faith, you don't have to advertise it. You can look at what people have done in their past, and it shows their moral character, how they run their lives from day to day. So I'd really like to keep my religion out of politics. I find it usually divisive depending on how big a group you're talking to. As a governor, you got to be able to walk down the middle, take both sides, and hear everybody equally. So, to me, I just would prefer to keep it out of view. The other part of that is hopefully more and more entities come up like tonight where they invite everybody to sit up here and talk to you from their heart, let you know what they believe in and how they would approach whatever they're running for. If we can get more and more people to push for open town halls, I think it gives everybody a better chance of getting into some sort of politics if that's what you want to do, be it at a city level, a county level. But in order to get our name out there, we all as individuals need to work together to push venues like tonight for future elections.
Thank you. And Sean, same question.
I'm going to start with the God side first as well. Yes, I do look to God for guidance. I'm a non-denominational Christian that was raised in the LDS church, and I believe that my God is good all the time. But that's not a violation of church and state. Our founders, when it came to separation of church and state, meant that we would not force our religion on others, nor would we banish other religions from their own views. And that's something I support. Now, in regards to beating Governor Brad Little, I'm just going to hit it right where the facts are. He hasn't taken Idaho funding. That means he's willing to sell you out. He hasn't been willing to debate for 3 elections in a row. That means he's too comfortable in his seat. Doesn't feel like he's accountable to you as citizens, to you as the constituents. That's a concern. When you've gotten too comfortable to answer the hard questions, to sit up here on the debate stage with your contenders, you've overstayed your welcome. It's time to go. And we're going to use those facts, and we're going to use the information of that out-of-state funding and that refusal to answer your guys' questions, whether it be on social networking, whether it be on the debate stage, whether it be in press conferences. He only answers to the wealthy elite, and that's how we're going to beat him.
All right. Thank you. And Ron.
All right. Yes, ma'am. Who asked that question? Who was that? Well, I am washed by the blood. I'm building treasures up in heaven. And I was raised a good Southern Baptist Christian boy. If y'all ain't caught the accent yet, I'm not exactly from Idaho. So there's 31 proverbs in the Bible for a reason. As I told y'all that I turned Blue County red for the first time in 10 or 12 years, and the persecution has been relentless. Relentless. And I've stayed up many a night questioning myself, but I know God put me in that position for a reason. Politics should be You should be in this job to serve. That's what you do. You take care of your constituents. It's a position of service. The other part of the question is, can you beat Brad Little? My question is, why is this man spending $3 million to get reelected for a $150,000 a year job? That should tell you something right there. He can be beat. People are fed up with the way this state is being run. There's a big undertow. But the biggest thing we need to do is make sure people vote. Republicans are notorious for not voting during midterm elections. We got to show up at the ballot box, and you got to vote. You can't talk about it. You got to show up. And yes, he can be beat. He can definitely be beat. And we're going to do it. Somebody up here is going to do it. People are fed up.
All right. Thank you. Next question.
We're in a room full of people, and this might make a few people uncomfortable, but it's a question a lot of us are already thinking. We hear a lot about protecting our kids and our communities, but alcohol is everywhere, in stores, at events, and other harmful influences are easy to access in everyday life. At the same time, cannabis is treated like one of the most dangerous substances out there. So how do you justify the difference, and where do you actually stand on cannabis policy in Idaho moving forward?
Thank you. And Lisa Marie, we'll begin with you on that one.
I love this one. I know for a fact, and this is when I was actually a child, that you can actually drink alcohol at home, you can drive to a bar, you can, and no pun on your bar. But I mean, we have actually placed laws so that they can just make a whole bunch of money on DUIs. I want you to know that. Right? The alcohol just isn't alcohol that's an alcohol. I can tell you because I hire a lot of scientists to actually break down the molecular components of the wines that are out there and your sports drinks and all of your alcoholic drinks. And you don't want to drink the majority of what these alcoholic drinks are. It's pure gasoline. And that is to make you sick. Right? So drink responsibly. What does that even mean? If you don't drink responsibly, then you're not a responsible person. This is not okay. And the reason why I'm saying that to you is because how many alcoholics do we have? Alcohol is actually ruining people's lives, and it has been for a very long time. And when it comes to cannabis, the people that own it is the government. They own everything about cannabis. And I actually have proof. I have patents that the government has owned with cannabis, which it was so illegal, but then all of a sudden it became so legal. And a lot of the cannabis that you guys are actually, what people are consuming, is actually doesn't even work. Just letting you know.
All right. Thank you. Justin?
So, in my opinion, we see that they're already trying to get a voter's pass of marijuana, legalizing marijuana. It looks like it's close to being signatured enough to get on the ballot. We're headed in that direction. Way I look at it, state might as well make some money. Instead of us footing the bill for all the roads into Jackpot, into Montana, into Oregon, why don't we go ahead, do some really good legislature on this, get it nailed down by the legislature and not just a vote on the ballot, but make a good law, bring it in at least medically, and use those proceeds to take care of our own roads, our own schools. But again, as a governor, I don't have a say in that. I could veto it if I don't like the way the bills wrote. That's about the only influence you have as governor. I personally have never used it. I'm not a fan of drugs. I don't even really like taking ibuprofen. So, see us wasting our taxpayer money putting in road improvements so people can go out of state and get it anyway doesn't make any kind of financial sense to this state.
Thank you. And Sean.
For over 2 decades, Idahoans have been asking for medical cannabis access. Families dealing with epilepsy, cancer treatments, chronic pain, and other serious conditions have been asking for options that patients in surrounding states already have. Many of those Idahoans go across state and go ahead and get it legally somewhere else. Then they come home and risk being treated as criminals. To put it into perspective, right now, Idaho exports a significant amount of economic activity to neighboring states, and these states actually mock us for it. In Washington's legal cannabis market, they generate over $1.2 billion annually in retail sales. In Oregon's cannabis market, they consistently exceed $1 billion per year. In Nevada, they're roughly $900 to $1 billion annually since legalization. In Montana, as a much smaller state, and a conservative state, mind you, has quickly built a cannabis market generating over $300 million in annual sales. Most of the border dispensaries around us openly admit that Idahoans make up 80 to 90% of their sales. That means here in Idaho, with our cannabis, our draconian laws that are founded in reefer madness, aren't stopping the cannabis from coming here. They're funneling money out of state, funding out-of-state programs, out-of-state infrastructures, money that could go to work right here in Idaho. And I promote sensible cannabis policy. That comes with starting where Idahoans have been, with what Idahoans have been asking for years, respecting the people's rights to be heard, having strict age-gating policies, not exporting Idaho's economy, and moving beyond a policy that isn't working. Now, we have a unique opportunity in our state because most of the rest of the country has already made some sort of move on legal cannabis, whether it be medical, recreational, or decriminalization. So we have a lot of states that we can learn from to build our own framework. Now, I apologize, Justin, I'm going to poke a little bit at you here. You have come out in favor, but you promote a 22% tax rate on cannabis, from what I've seen. That is a problem. That is too high. That taxes people right back to the street dealers that we're trying to get rid of. We need sensible policy that taxes it right and creates good age gating.
All right, and before we move on, since Justin was targeted, you get a rebuttal of 2 minutes.
Well, thanks for targeting me. Like I said, I look at it as a way to finance our state. I've never personally been into it. I'm not against it, though. I feel that as much tax as we can put on it, the better. I still think that I would rather buy a beer from Budweiser than some guy brewing in his basement. So even if I had to pay that tax instead of just walking across the street. So I believe having dispensaries is a much cleaner way of going about doing whatever you would prefer. To me, it's about the money. Let's put the money into Idaho. Let's fix the programs that are failing first, and then put the money where it belongs. I think we're really going to lose out on a lot of control on this if it does go to a ballot-type vote, because then our legislature is out of the loop. They can't do the due diligence to get the money where it belongs. So, again, I'm just saying we need to do something because it's coming.
All right, thank you. We'll go back to Ron. Same question.
That's a tricky question. Yes, I'm for legalizing. That might get me in trouble with some folks, but that's the truth. I gotta say the truth. The economic side of it is profitable. It'll be profitable for the state. If you ask a sheriff or a police officer, would you rather deal with somebody that's raging blackout drunk or somebody that's stoned? They're gonna pick the stone guy all day long. The truth of the matter is, hemp's been around forever. You know, hemp is a byproduct of marijuana, THC. And with hemp, you can make rope, clothes, shoes. It has a matter of use. Matter of fact, THC has been proven to cure 9 types of cancer. I would much rather, if I was a cancer patient, I would much rather take THC than I would an opioid. I had some surgery done on my mouth. I had to get something done, and they gave me hydrocodone, and I took it once, and I couldn't stand it. It was horrible. So, you know, I'm just going to say that.
Thank you. And Mark?
I have taken the time to listen to the arguments on this, and some of them actually make a lot of sense. Some of them have been stated here, but ultimately I'm a strong no on any legalization of marijuana for medical or recreational purposes. I fear that there would be far too much damage, and any benefit, tax benefit, etc., would be not nearly enough to justify it. Marijuana would inevitably, the legalization of it would inevitably lead to more teens and youth using it than are currently using it, and in the development years, it's very damaging to the brain, and they can develop, and often do develop, psychosis and become patients of Big Pharma forever. I'm against the idea of becoming a patient of Big Pharma in every way, shape, or form. I think we need to do, ingest and eat and have the things that God created the way He created them, with less chemicals and poisons in them. This comes from somebody who's very aware about alcohol. I was a traffic collision investigator. I watched people die because of traffic collisions regarding alcohol. I'm very much against the improper use of alcohol. Drunkenness is a bad sin and leads to damage. I'm very aware of that. But when you use alcohol in the way that is the gift that God provided for us, it is a blessing. And so the hope is that people would be educated on using alcohol as a blessing and not have it become something that becomes damaging. And this is basically a societal type of thing where it's basically changing the way that we look at things and wanting to do things with traditional family values and wanting to do things wholesomely. You stay away from overuse, or whether it's overeating or overindulging in alcohol. So all that being said, it's just not worth the risk. If it came across my desk, I would veto it.
Right. Thank you. And next question.
Hi, thank you for coming tonight. I want to ask you a question, and it's kind of like, are you smart enough? Currently, we just went through a legislative session. We went to a legislative session, which there was a bunch of bills that had to do with digital money, privacy and security, not only for our children, because they're using children and safety as sort of a way to get people to actually agree to giving up their privacy. There's also, we have in Idaho, we have people that want to have a Doge, but if you have looked at what has happened with some of that information, it is sketchy, if not completely hidden from us, what is going on with private information for citizens. As a governor, would you protect us to your best ability? And what do you have planned to deal with this new technological order that's actually rolling in faster than even some of the best technicians in computer science and in technology? What can you do for us? And how can you protect us from the data centers that they plan on using to take away our water? Thanks.
Thank you. And Justin?
So I'll start with data centers. I am against them. I've done a bit of research on them. Yes, they're showing or trying to say that they'll run closed loop systems. I see up in Kuna where that one's being built, it supplied 1,400 jobs till it's done. When it's done, it'll supply about 100 jobs. I don't believe that is an effective use of our money and our power to operate data centers. I would rather see it into more of an agriculture and manufacturing base where the jobs can grow exponentially. The other part of that, on your data being leaked out, to be honest with you, I'm not sure what the governor can actually do about that. I would be in support of any law that the legislatures could put together if it's written well and protects all of our values with our information being online. I would definitely support any kind of bill like that. AI scares it out of me. I've done a little bit of research into that, and it's not that hard to hack AI to make it open AI, which, if you haven't heard of that, look into it. That is a scary, scary situation. As governor, again, I'm not sure what I would be allowed to do under Idaho law to be able to put a brakes on any of that. But again, if I were you, I'd be talking to your legislatures and making sure that we're taking care of these problems thoroughly, looking into the future.
Sean?
I think I'm going to take the same approach. AI data centers. I don't think that's particularly a state level discussion, unfortunately. I think that's something that has a more direct impact on local municipalities and should be handled more locally on a community basis, because we may have one community in Idaho that says, yeah, we want that. We want that job increase, whether it's small or big. And we may have another community in Idaho that says, no, we want nothing to do with those AI data centers. That should be up to local communities. That's part of my platform, is putting the power back in the hands of local municipalities rather than government oversight infiltrating every aspect of our lives. We need to get government back in our wheelhouse, and that means getting state government back to work on the things that state government was designed for, and getting federal government back onto work that federal government was behind or designed for, and putting local municipalities back in charge of what they're intended for. Now, with AI, I do embrace it as a beneficial tool. However, it does also scare the crap out of me. It is a powerful tool, and there is lots of room for exploitation, privacy violations, etc. I would do everything I can as governor, and again, I don't know what my extent would be able to legally to protect individuals' privacy, to protect your guys' rights, whether it be private property, etc., and open up the government to be more transparent instead of the way it is currently, where we see them using our data without our permissions for their own gain. It should be the other way around. If we're going to use citizens' data, it should be at the permission of the citizen and for the gain of our constituents.
Thank you. And Ron?
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with these guys on the AI thing. It's really scary. We were at an AIC meeting up in Boise, and they had a class on can you use AI to help the government. And there were 4 professors there from Boise State, and they were talking about how it can be hacked. And one of the examples they gave on how it can be hacked is they put in one entry, they put Donald Trump sells turtles. They waited about 5 minutes, and they pulled up a biography of Donald Trump. And in that biography of Donald Trump, it says Donald Trump sells turtles. So it can be tricked. It's not all-knowing. It's not like the Wizard of Oz. It's not, it's really, really scary. And I don't think we can do anything as a governor, but what I would to stop that kind of stuff, but what I would say to a parent is get your kids off the phone. Limit their time. Watch what they're doing. Because a lot of times what I've seen, being around people that have small kids and the kids get a little unruly, they just give them a phone. It's almost like giving them a drug. They just stop, and they're for 25, 30 minutes, they're just sitting there, just mesmerized. I think I would like to, I don't know how, that's a great question. That's something, that's food for thought. I don't know how we stop that, though. And I think that we, as a state, I don't know if we have enough power. I know we don't have enough water to sustain that many data centers. It's very, very rough on the environment. So that would be, like you said, that's the municipality question more than a state question.
Thank you. And Mark.
I disagree strongly. This is definitely a state issue. This is definitely a governor's issue. When you think about the fact that AI professionals are on podcasts this very week discussing that if they actually released all the technology they have, it would eliminate more than half of the jobs in our country. It means that the governor of any state that's going to do well in the future to plan for such a change needs to be not afraid of such a thing, but very involved, embracing the chance and opportunity to get out in front of it with the right people, the right professionals, so that we can protect ourselves and set ourselves up for a future where we're going to do the best. We cannot hide from such a thing, and the governor of Idaho needs to lead from the front and take this information on, investigate, and put the information out to the people. We live in a world where our current governor flies under the radar. He's never questioned by media and never puts out any information unless it's some photo op. Instead, what you're going to get after I become governor is somebody who calls people on the carpet, puts them in front of live cameras, makes them answer for the things that we are battling and debating with as people are being replaced by AI humanoid robots not too far in the future from now. I want you to know that I will protect you and I will lead the way in this new world of artificial intelligence and the threat that it's going to have on the people of Idaho.
And finally, Lisa Marie.
Well, I was just at the ICI show in Las Vegas, which is where the highest technology and security was all under one roof. Imagine that. You wouldn't have wanted to have been there. What I can tell you is I'm in this industry. I'm a new film producer, author. I'm in Hollywood every day. AI is nothing new. Need to know that. CGI technology was all the special effects that you saw in all the greatest movies that you remember. What they did is they brought on the word AI in less than 2 years so that it could just be another fear for you. You need to understand this. We are a fear-based world. We are a fear-based country. And I do agree with you, Mark, completely that this artificial intelligence, I mean, I'm going to tell you at this point, and you might not want to hear this, but do not keep your phones on you. Do not keep your electronics on you. You are being electronically poisoned. They don't even need to put a chip in you. You are a chip. You need to stay as far away from your electronics on a daily basis as much as you possibly can, and I'm really being very serious with you. They have poisoned us electronically. Now what they're doing with your identity, I mean, I'm not here to scare you, but they've already got it. The only hope that we have right now is God. You have to put your faith in our higher power. Because AI is out of control. It's reprogramming. And these biggest programmers that I know, sorry about that, they can't control.
All right. Thank you all. And thanks for all the great questions. In the interest of time, we'll just do very brief closing statements. Watch Rod right there. We started with Sean, so we'll begin with you, Ron.
Yeah, I would just like to say that thank y'all all for coming out and sharing your thoughts and great questions. My biggest concern with Governor Little being back in office again is going to be 12 years. I mean, there's term limits for a reason. We should have term limits here. This last legislative session, it's not only Governor Little, it's the legislative body as a whole. The Republican Party is supposed to be the party of small government, right? Any idea how many bills went through the legislative body this year? 580 through the House and 180 through the Senate. Now the legislative body is ruled by the Republican Party. That is not small government at all. And what they did, they have stripped away your rights, and they have trampled on county rights. The reason that my bill didn't get passed because the short-term rental, they had 4 lobbyists up there, and they were using Idaho as a template on how to get to stop the legislation against short-term rentals. So if we're really going to be the party of small government, let's act like it. We don't need 600, 760 bills to go through a legislative body. There were so many that they couldn't even keep up with them. And at the end of the week, they just passed a bunch of things that I guarantee you half the legislative body didn't even read. So if we're going to be the party of small government, be the party of small government. Deregulate, get rid of stuff. Next thing is, remember, they have $1.3 billion of your money up there they're sitting on. That's your money. And now they keep saying, they keep patting themselves on the back saying, oh, look at, we cut taxes. But me as a commissioner, they've mandated me to pay for certain things, roads, hospitals, jails. How are we supposed to pay for those? Give us our money back. Give the counties their power back and allow them to spend the money as the county commissioners see fit. They're not the all-knowing God up there. That's what I say. But they act like it. It's time to have some fresh blood in there.
Thank you. And Mark?
Brad Little has no idea what's going on. When he posts something on social media, which it's not even him, I'm sure, and I post something underneath his comment, I get 10 times the amount of likes that he gets. Brad Little's going to lose on May 19th. I'm going to beat him. We have, in the next few weeks, 200,000 rack cards going out and tens of thousands of doors being knocked from people around the state. We are getting calls every day for people who want hundreds to thousands of cards in our trifolds that we're shipping out to them across the state. I'm the only one that's going around to the places that I'm going. Our campaign has been all over the state multiple times. I've shaken hands with thousands of people, and they are telling me that they are super thankful that I'm running because we need to beat Brad Little. This is the word that's out there. He has no clue what's going on. He has no clue that I'm going to beat him on May 19th. We're spending more money than anybody. We're spending more money than Brad Little. He's not even spending any money. People think he is. He just has a big bank account. He's not even spending it. We have more signs. I have to keep printing hundreds of signs every week to send them out to people. This is growing big time. And what we need people to do is keep calling people and telling them we must beat Brad Little, vote for Mark Fitzpatrick for governor. My website's markfitzidaho.com. I would encourage you to go there and check it out. We do need more money because of all these orders coming in, if you can help out that way. And the last thing I would say is this is a Founding Fathers moment. I've thought a lot about truth lately, and that we need truth big time back in our society and in our government. I want you to know that truth is something that I'm very, very clear on. I'm ready to give my life up for truth, and for truth being in the government to help Idaho and the Idaho people. I love you, and I love Idaho. God bless you.
Great. Thank you. Lisa Marie?
Okay, I'm giving all of you an earful. I was asked in 2007 for my movie rights. When I made the drink Red Rocks, it landed Hollywood big time. I'm not a movie star, but I was asked for my autograph all the time. And what I saw was a country that is focused on football. I saw a country that's focused on entertainment. I saw a country that talks about who they're going to vote for and just arguing all the time. And it is a cartoon that's going on out here. And what I told Mark, I called Mark and I just said, look, this is what I'm doing. I've never given my story. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys who I am, what I am. Just go on the internet and look what I'm doing. But I created a comic book, which is unfortunate to be able to show how many children are missing. Now, I've been asked by Marvel, DC, all of the biggest movie producers to be able to take this comic book and they want to buy it. And it's not about a comic book. It's I'm out there creating movies so that we can show what really is going on in this country. That's just one thing. I'm all about the children. I am here to protect our children. And if we have to go out there and put Idaho in the news because we have created a state that's going to make sure that we account for all of our children. And when I was one-on-one with Brad, I said, look, Brad, this was in 2018. I'll drop from the race. Let's account for every child in this state and understand what their life is. We only have 2 million people. He looked at me and said, you got this, Lisa. Yeah. Well, let me tell you. The Idaho State Police Colonel Wills, for 9 years, did not even come to Eagle, Idaho when we asked to say, why in the world in your website do you have children that are there that don't even have a picture? So, Brad has this. I put this is the cover of the new comic book. The comic book industry is a $3 billion industry. No, $30 billion industry. I just dropped a zero. This book right here, I literally have 2 million orders for this comic book right here, and it's not funny. This depicts Taryn Summers, who was dead in a trash bag in her mother's car in Emmett, Idaho. I am taking Monkey, our little boy. I'm asking all of you to volunteer. We need to find Michael Vaughn. His body needs to be found. There are 3 potential suspects that could actually be in jail too. So come up to me because I'm going to put our state on the map just because of our missing children. Thank you.
Thank you. And Justin.
So again, I just want to reiterate, I am not a politician. I'm a mechanic. I look at everything very analytically. You got to know where the root cause of the problems are. And I think my platform is the best way to get there. Through audits, transparency, citizens task force. That's my biggest thing. Bringing the people in to help with the government. Because the government just ain't right the way it is. If we all get together, we all start looking, we can make a change. The last one is accountability. We have to hold the people in office accountable for the choices they make. I believe I am the guy that can do that, and my platform will push us in that direction, and it'll give us a home for our children and our children's children where we know where our money's going and what our government's doing. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally, Sean.
I've come into this governor's race without a history in politics, without big money backing like some of the other candidates that you have here. I've built it fully on grassroots over the last several years, running for different races just to get Idahoans to wake up and start having the conversation that needs to be had and hold our legislators accountable, including our governor. That campaign has been built to honor the past and shape the future of Idaho. It's been built to restore accountability, protect communities, and open up the government to more transparency, covering the core issues that I think state government needs to focus on. That's stuff like, healthcare and Medicaid stability, education sovereignty, infrastructure and responsible growth, public safety and justice, agriculture, water and natural resources, immigration and rule of law, family courts and parental rights, government and fiscal responsibility, getting our state back to work for Idahoans, getting them out of your backyards, out of your private lives, and getting it focused on what we're intended to do. Now, a couple matters that I'd like to close out with is I never said that I wouldn't handle AI or get ahead of it. I'm a proactive person. We need proactive governments. So just because I'm not in favor of regulating the data centers at the state level and believe that's more a municipal thing, doesn't mean I'm not going to be proactive about AI and that development. When it comes to cannabis, we often talk about protecting the children in the state of Idaho. Yet we're not doing that with alcohol. Right up at our own Capitol, there's alcoholic imagery presenting a love for alcohol being sold right in the gift shop. That's not protecting the children. We're advertising it on billboards. We're advertising it in storefronts. We're promoting it. Heck, Welch's the most kid-friendly juice company on the planet now has an alcoholic beverage. So that's not protecting the children. And to address teen use, with 38 states that have legalized cannabis, teen use and crime rates haven't risen across the board like everybody states. Do the research, the facts are there, the science, the data. We need to move past, like Lisa said, that fear-based society. It's time to start working for us as Idahoans, time to get government back in its wheelhouse, time to get accountability at the state level. Let's put more control and more power in our local municipalities because they know best. Just like the federal government doesn't know what's best for Idaho, Idaho doesn't know what's best for Idaho Falls, doesn't know what's best for Pocatello, Twin Falls, Boise, Coeur d'Alene, and so on. The communities that make up those cities and those counties, those are the people that know best. Let's put that power back in your hands.
All right, thank you. And we'll turn the time right back over to Doug. Let's give everybody a round of applause.
Yes, thank you. And let's give Jolene a big round of applause also. Thank you. I mean, this is great. And I just have to say this. I really do appreciate all of you coming. And I think being here in front of you to be able to ask the questions and you people to come and ask the hard questions, that's really important. Governor is an elected position. He's a civil servant, if you will. You choose that person to basically represent or do the things that you believe is right for you, your family, and all that. And so I would say this is just, think about what every one of these people said. Think about, those people that didn't come tonight and stuff and how they perform and whatnot. And really look at and say, okay, who represents me? And that's a tough word because I'm used to using it on representatives, but the governor actually is looking out for you too. They're the CEO of the state. And are they running, and you're the stockholders, if you want to look at it that way. And so who's going to best run the state the way that would work for you? And so with that, let's give these all guys and gals another big hand for that. And I'm going to let y'all go. Let's come back next week and we'll hear the Democrats, because everybody has a right to be heard. Absolutely. And we definitely believe that. So thank you all. Be careful. It's getting late and I appreciate your patience and be safe going home. See you next week.